their phones so we can be ready to go as soon as 3:30 hits. And welcome, everybody. Smile on your face, if you can hear me. There was just one person. All right, it's 3:30. I got it. So we'll call the meeting to order, and we will have an invocation and a pledge. Father, we thank you for getting us all here safely, and we thank you for the beautiful day, and we are grateful to you for loving us, and we pray that the things that we do and say, and even what we think, will be glorifying to you. And as we have custody over the tax dollars of this town, of the money that the people have provided, we ask that we will do so responsibly and practice the best wisdom we know how in doing so, in fairness and responsibility. Thank you again for all you've done and all you've provided to this great town. In Christ's name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, public comments. Anybody want to speak? No one. All right, hearing none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? There is no consent agenda. We'll move straight down to new business. Brandon, you want to kick us off?
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon, everybody, and I want to start by thanking staff for their work on this. Budget is often a kind of a grueling process, and especially this year, we were transitioning to a new software and a new way of doing things, and I asked some difficult questions and asked them to make some changes this year. So I appreciate them and their hard work on what we're presenting today. What you have in front of you and what I sent to you last week for review over the last few days is a budget proposal of $11,924,305, which is a 32.12% decrease from the current fiscal year budget of $17.5 million. Balancing this budget proposal did include the use of $4,495,066.23 from surplus funds, which is a 51% decrease from FY24. We used a little over $9 million to balance the current budget. As you all know, we have a relatively healthy reserve and surplus. Our policy is to maintain a 6-month surplus. Standard practices is 3 months, I believe, 2 to 3 months. We have a policy to maintain 6. Anything above that is considered surplus and is available for use to balance the budget and complete projects and pay the bills. So that's what we have done here. Just a few items of note. Almost all of the technical services line items and all across departments has decreased. That is not necessarily because we have cut costs in those areas. That is because there is a new accounting practice called that requires a new line item called SBITA, which is subscription-based IT agreements. So anything that we pay annually on software, such as our payroll, email, ClearGov, Adobe, Office 365, all of those types of services has to be accounted for under that line item. So all those technical services line items, that's where it used to be housed, has been moved to new SBITA line items. As discussed with you during the first budget workshop in March, $5,500 has been included in the SBITA line item for administration. We are planning to move all employees from our current email system to Office 365. That will also include the Office 365 suite. That will allow our employees to stay connected no matter where they are. Their work will move with them. It'll make things more efficient. It'll keep us from having to buy Office 365 when we buy new computers. And all of our email and calendars and all of that will be linked. So that'll be a big welcomed improvement, I believe. We have also included an anticipated increase of 15% to both of our medical and dental insurance plans. This is a typical increase that we anticipate. We were lucky last year in that we did not get an increase at all. I believe the year before was a 20% increase. So we do expect an increase this year. One of the saving grace here is if it is above 15%, we don't usually get the numbers until October. It usually goes into effect December, because open enrollment's around the November timeframe. So it's not a full year that you're paying for. So unless it's a massive increase, the 15% should cover it. We've added a total of $7,140 to public safety and public safety administration to cover officer participation in the Peace Officer Annuity and Benefit Fund of Georgia. This is a state-administered supplemental retirement fund. If an officer stays in it for a full 30 years and meets all the other eligibility requirements, it provides up to $900 a month in supplemental retirement. It is a program that I wish I had joined when I had the opportunity. I never did, but it is what it is. But we would like to consider offering that to our officers as a means to stay competitive. It is a $35 a month per officer cost, and it is transferable if for whatever reason the officer leaves or whatever, but we have added that. We continue to carry funding forward, $1.5 million for the Pendleton Dam project. We do still anticipate receiving a grant from the federal government to cover that amount, but regardless, because we are on the hook for that repair because it has been reclassified as Class 1. We have to keep budgeting for that. We have to keep preparing for that. But we do not plan on starting that project until we hear from FEMA on whether or not we received the grant, unless our hand is forced by safe dams. So anyway, that inflates our budget somewhat. And then the $4.5 million, I'll round up, of surplus used to balance the general fund budget also includes funding for several projects that were budgeted in '24 but not completed, and this also includes a few of the assigned fund projects. So there are some funds carried forward. And as a reminder, the town ended fiscal year '23 with 15.7 months of reserve funding, which amounts to approximately $9.2 million, according to the '24 audit report, leaving us with a 6-month reserve of approximately $2.5 million and a surplus of approximately $6.6 million. Talk about revenue real quick. We project an overall increase in tax revenue of 7.25% from all sources over fiscal year '25. And as usual, property taxes and loss represent our largest sources of revenue. Property tax is anticipated to be $1.8 million for fiscal year '25 versus $1.7 from this current year, which is a 7% increase. This, of course, is contingent on the millage rate remaining the same when you vote on that in August. Anticipated property taxes amount to 15.3% of our budget. I want to point out that the national average for property tax revenue at the municipal level is approximately 30%. I also want to point out that a recent change in the law that will go to the voters for their consideration as a constitutional change happened this year, which would cap property assessments at 3%. I believe it's 3%. Is it 3% or rate of inflation? I think it's 3%.
Per year.
Per year. So that will have an impact on municipal government's ability to keep millage rates the same, but also expect, increases in their revenues. I'm not saying it'll eliminate it, but it will have an impact if that is passed by the voters. So as an illustration, our property tax revenue is $1.8 million, expected to be 1.8. Our police department, it costs us roughly $2.5 million a year to operate the police department. So thank goodness for lost and other sources of revenue. We do remain, our millage rate does remain to be one of the lowest in the state. The average last year was around 8 mills. We are at 2.889. All right, department breakdowns. As you'll see in this chart, most of our departments did decrease their budget, and we had an overall decrease of 32.12. I won't go into details, that's what the department heads are here for. Personnel, I had a few council members ask to see scenarios with 3% and 4% increases. Those numbers are here. Our base budget, like I said, is 11.9 million. If you did a 3% increase, it would go to just a little over 12 million. A 4% would amount to an increase of 109,000 on the general fund, bringing the base of the general fund budget to 12,033,000. And also keep in mind that some employees, depending on what involvement they have in the sewer operation, some of their salaries come out of sewer. So any increase would also affect the sewer fund. So at a 3% increase, you're looking at a total increase of $84,000. That's $2,400 from the sewer fund and $81,950 from the general fund. And at 4%, it's $112,000 total, with $3,200 coming from the sewer fund. Also note is that Patty, our library supervisor, has requested a part-time library assistant in her budget, which would amount to about $17,803. She and I and Sandy sat down last week and looked at numbers. We do believe that we can safely justify the need for a part-time employee over there based on their numbers. So we have included that for your consideration. And just some quick highlights, our 2017 SPLOST budget is $4.3 million. That still includes $3.5 million to complete the Palmetto Road Roundabout, which is still in property acquisition. $300,000 for parks, which includes the Hanley Park Pavilion and restroom, and $535,000 for gateway signage and streetscapes, facility renovations at 881, and continuing to pay on the GTIB loan. 2023 SPLOST, $3.9 million. That includes $585,000 for downtown and intersection improvements, $550,000 for sewer, $1.9 million for public work projects, and $905,000 for parks improvements, which includes the new stage and pavilion area across the street, which would be the first phase of the park rehabilitation. Philip will get into more than that later. Founders Day increased by $11,250. And the sewer fund, assuming no pay increases, the sewer fund decreased by $370,000. And if pay increases are approved, the amount would increase by the amount shown under personnel above. So to summarize, one of the things that we've acknowledged that staff has been aggressive over the last couple of years in trying to get projects done. But what inevitably happens is we run into roadblocks and projects don't get completed. We have a lot of projects on our plate. So I've asked staff this year to be more realistic about what projects are already in the hopper that need to be finished and what projects we need to get started this year that we can realistically make significant progress on. So we've made some changes in that area. But the budget has significantly decreased overall because of some of those changes that we've made. So that is my introduction and rundown. Are there any questions so far?
I have three to start with. If you could scroll up, please. I want to make sure we clarify our language on we have used surplus. That does not mean we have literally used surplus. It doesn't mean we have spent surplus. It means we have made numbers, we have shifted numbers in a way so as to balance the budget.
That's correct.
Sometimes that can be a misunderstanding. My second question would be on your exercise of telling us what the federal or national average is. That's somewhat useful, I think, going in the right direction. But there are so many states that tax their citizens so many different ways that I think it doesn't help us as much as it could as if we just did the state.
Right.
So maybe a more helpful number there would be the state average
And I do have, so I was looking earlier, and it doesn't break it down. I'll have to do some more work to break it down. But the average county and municipal rate in Georgia is 30 mils. Now, that's, of course, divided between the county and the cities, but the average is 30 mils
Right.
that you're going to pay in Georgia combined.
And even there, it's tough to do because
Right.
not all jurisdictions offer the same services.
Right, and I have a spreadsheet from the State Department of Revenue that I used. I used it last year to find out what the average was overall, and then to compare us to other cities of similar size. And that's hard to do too, because we're a small city in the metro Atlanta area. And so we can't necessarily compare ourselves based on that. It's just like our pay study. You gotta compare to what's around you and what your actual costs of doing business are.
Like if you try to compare us to, say, Palmetto.
Right, Palmetto's
they
got an
offer
8.
They offer their own sanitation, right? They offer power.
Right, but
and
those are different funds. So sanitation, sewer, power,
But I'm
that's all
saying-
gonna be
I'm
enterprise.
saying how you bring in
Right, but
funding.
that doesn't generally affect your tax rate because it's an enterprise fund.
Okay,
So that's
don't-
user fees.
Don't use that as an example.
Right.
But my point is, all governments have different services.
We do, that's
So,
correct.
so it's hard to make that comparison, but I think the exercise is useful if we can get as close to comparing apples to
Right,
apples.
I understand. Noonan, just to give you an example, 8.5 mils is their tax rate,
Yeah.
so.
And do they have a fire department?
They do, they have a fire department, police department, yeah.
Okay, so, I like that. I would just like to see something
Right.
that's a little bit closer to.
Yeah, and we'll put that together in August when we vote or ahead of that, so you
Right.
can research it or look at it, but.
Right.
we'll-
More
we'll-
useful in millage rate time than it is
Right,
now.
right.
And then the final thing that I had wanted to look at a little bit is the 17 and 23 splosts. The 17, that's the final number, right, Sandy? That's what was ultimately collected.
With the exception that we're still making interest on the money.
Okay, do you recall what the anticipated number was? Remember, it was,
Just over 9 million and
okay, so.
thought we were gonna collect 9.
Okay, all right. Okay, I misunderstood what these numbers were. These numbers are not what is to be collected or
Correct,
collected.
that's what we were gonna
Yeah.
spend
Okay,
this year.
all right.
Isn't that right, Brandon? Is that what
Yeah, the 2017 SPOS collection period ended last June.
Right.
So any revenue at this point from that is just from an interest.
And if you do compare 17 and 23 between what was collected for 17 and what we expect or anticipate to collect for the 23, that went up what, like 2 million? Yeah.
And at the moment, I looked yesterday and
Right, right.
not by a ton, but by
Okay, all right.
doing well at the moment.
Okay, that's all I have on this memo, if y'all have any
I
questions.
just have one question. I always thought that we had $2 million in our budget for the Pendleton Dam. Is that 1.5 hours and the 500 is?
Right, we have 500,000. We've changed it up a little bit this year and how we've done it. We'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, the overall project is $2 million, 1.5 anticipated from federal grant.
Right.
Right,
And then the 500 is? from-
$500,000 from general fund.
Thank you, I thought so.
Yes.
Anybody else have any questions about this? Okay.
All right.
Very useful memo, thanks for putting
Sure.
that together.
All right, I will start with the administration budget. So let's look at expenditures for administration. So, just some highlights. This is the baseline budget without an anticipated pay increase. But the personal service and the personnel services and employee benefits line item in administration did go up by 13%. That was partly because of the proposed increase in medical and also the increase that you all approved last year for retirement contributions. We've reduced the supplies line item by 2%. The capital outlay went down by 73%. Last year, we had, in the administration budget, we had a significant number in there. We had $350,000 in there for sites and $150,000 in there for site improvements. That was for the Clark property. Public Works did save us a tremendous amount of money, and they got the demo completed and all that. The wells, they finished that yesterday, closing that up? Okay, so I did include 75 of that back into this year's budget for site improvements so that we could put some of that towards additional site cleanup out there, possibly temporary parking, that type of situation over there on that site. And also, there may need to be some supplemental funding for 881 outside of what was available from our insurance. So that was included in there, but that overall line item went down by 73%. Municipal complex, I put $10,000 in there. I don't anticipate any major needs here, but there have been some discussions about, the established numbers out front, and any other types of repairs that may have to be done that are outside of the scope of what we have in building maintenance. As I discussed in the budget, the last budget workshop, I did include funding for a new admin vehicle. I don't anticipate it being $50,000. I've gotten some updated numbers. Sandy sent me some information from one of the dealerships after this was already sent out that they have vehicles that are in the mid to upper 40s, so I don't anticipate it being the full $50,000. But that was included in there.
State contract?
State contract, yes, sir. And then other than that, let's see, other costs. Contingencies, I took that down by 50%. We always have a $100,000 contingency in our budget. That is for emergencies. Historically, we have not used that funding. My thought on it is, instead of inflating the budget, carrying that forward, put some in there. If we get to a point where we're needing to use more than that, it's probably a dire emergency, and I would feel very comfortable coming to you all in a public meeting saying we need to do a budget amendment. So I did decrease that. Debt service is just that. It does not change. It's the debt on the building. And then other financing uses. This is the $30,000 that we traditionally had been putting out to the Fayette County Development Authority. The last couple of years, you all have approved to transfer to the DDA for funding for their services, mostly First Fridays and those types of things. So I did include that in there as well. So that is all I have for the admin budget, and I will, if there are no questions on the admin budget, I'll turn it over to Sandy to cover the highlights of finance.
Okay, for the finance side, we are going down 5.55%. Once again, the regular employee increase was because of the salary change that happened in January. And then I do have 3 people now in our department instead of 2. So some of the costs have gone up mainly because of that, for that reason. One of the things that I want to do is I've increased some of the travel and education and the dues because I've got an extra person. I want to do a little bit of training for her, and I want to do more training than what I've been able to do the last few years. I'm hoping to get some more training in this year. So I've increased some of that. My books and periodicals went up by 200%. That's because there is a new auditing book that that I would like to buy just to keep up to date. And it costs, if I remember right, $250 or somewhere around in there. So I just wanted to buy that book, so I had to increase my cost there. Other than that, most of my stuff has gone down. Since we have ClearGov, obviously, my cost increased for the subscription itself that we have to use, but it's no longer in our software on our capital. So capital went to nothing, and our Sabita increased for that. And I also increased for ADP, our payroll system, because they tend to increase every single year. So that's pretty much all I have, unless somebody has a question.
Anyone?
Sure.
All right. Next.
Next will be municipal court.
Hello.
I'm going to be brief. I had a decrease of 19.47% in my budget this year. Some of that is due because we did not have the ARPA funds or the surplus funds that are accounted for in this budget. I am asking for a 4% increase for a prosecutor and the municipal court judge, as I feel they do a phenomenal job helping us maintain the laws of our court and keeping things running smoothly. So I am asking for a 4% increase for them. For the prosecutor, it would be $54 more a month. And for the municipal court judge, it would be $62 more a month. Everything else in my budget pretty much stayed the same, except for splitting out of technical services and the Sabita for VC3 and Just FOIA, which is our new open record software. And I've also included some funds, some money in there for dues and fees and education and training for Lindsay and myself and the judge to keep up with all of our certifications. So if you don't have any other questions, that's all I have.
Just curious, I'm not opposed to it, but why 4%? How'd you land on 4%? I'm just curious.
I did some mathematical type layout, just kind of trying to figure out where we were with other municipalities around. And I was trying to make sure that our salaries were kind of in scope with everybody around us. And I just feel like that they deserved, I kind of did different numbers, kind of how Brandon had showed y'all different scenarios. And so I kind of laid it out and I kind of just came to 4% that way.
That put them in somewhat comparison?
It is, it's a lot in comparison without being too much above and too much below. It's kind of right there in the medium point.
That's fine, thank you.
Yes, sir. Smiling now. I had zoned out for a minute.
All right. Any other questions? All right, thank
Right.
you.
Thank you, April.
Next is Parks and Recreation and Founder's Day.
Good afternoon.
Hi. We are asking for Founder's Day for $10,000 more than last year. The reason being the bands are more expensive, the sound is more expensive, and depending on the band's needs, we may have to have a bigger stage. On the other hand, we've already raised $35,000 in sponsorships, and that's more than we raised overall last year. And we still have 4 more months, and some big fish still out there. So we're pretty sure we're going to cover everything, which will be about $61,000.
So the budget, though, is what, 61,000, did I see that?
Let me get,
That's correct.
Yes, sir.
So, and you've raised 35 on top of
Already.
it, so you're near $100,000.
No, sir, we've raised 35 of that 61,000.
Okay,
And that's what we're projected to spend is that 61. And so we're trying to cover all of it, so we don't have to take anything out of the rec budget.
okay.
Does that make sense? Did I explain that?
Yeah, because even if we raise the money, we're still spending what we raise. So it
Yes,
has
sir.
to be budgeted.
Yes, sir.
right.
In the event that we get crazy and we're able to get our stage built in
Yes,
time for Founder's Day, how
Yes,
much
sir.
are we saving?
Well, about $2,000
For a big one?
for a
Or-
big one. So over a few years, it'll definitely add up when we get that pavilion. And we may not need that big one this year. It just depends on what the band can bring. They have additional musicians that require a bigger stage. For recreation, I have asked for an increase in tech, equipment rental, and office supplies. But on the other hand, I have gone way down in decorations for the town. We only need 8,000 instead of 18. We have, in special program supplies, have gone down quite a bit, 28,800. We have just, overall, we have a savings. We're down less. The only thing that's making it 500, last year was 560,000, this year 660,000, is the water. And Scott, do you know what that 170,000 in water? Did you have that in here for, in the water line item? It's 170,000, and it was 1,800 last year. On the printout, 170,000.
That might have been a
Typo, somebody got a little
yeah, that might
excited
have
with
been
the
a bad
zeros.
entry.
Okay.
Let's look at
Okay, so that will bring us down below last
that,
year's budget.
yeah.
So that's exciting. That's about,
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
well, I thought maybe we were draining Shamrock Lake.
9,000%. No, we'll fix that.
Yes, sir.
That's-
Yes, sir. So overall, we're about $7,000. That's kind of what I was wondering.
Yes.
1,700.
In the category of questions you should have asked.
I get a little excited sometimes.
100.
Yeah.
What,
Gotta tell the Zumba girls to stop drinking water.
I will.
All right, so we're learning this software. It's brand new.
Yes,
So,
sir. Yes, sir.
By the way, Brandon, this is a fabulous, this is terrific.
We've mostly enjoyed it.
This is
It's-
terrific.
The learning curve going into it has been hard, but we've mostly enjoyed it.
Just love how you can go from one year to the next and
Yeah,
everything
it's-
is right there. It's
It's been nice. So,
good for you guys.
thank you. So,
What
yeah,
can
we'll.
I answer?
Do we have anything budgeted for Christmas decorations?
Yes, ma'am, town decorations. It was 18,000 last year, and it's budgeted for 10 this year. The reason being, we've also purchased a few more things. We purchased a sleigh, a giant reindeer, and a mailbox, a beautiful mailbox where the children can put their Santa letters in. This year, you know how we had the arches over the bridge?
Yeah.
We're buying arches, I believe they're $180 a piece, to start arching the walkway around, so we'll have a beautiful pathway for people to walk at night. It'll be lit up.
I don't know.
There's always things we can add.
I've got 100-something thousand to play with here. So, so if you want to move some of that water money into the.
I just think we need lots more lights. Something
I think
that's,
so too.
that's lit up, not a structure that's out there with no lights on it, because people want lights, and
Yes, ma'am.
that's the most complaint.
I would
get.
like to see it if we can afford it, back to the 18, but that's,
Well, I mean, considering the change that we're about to make to your water bill,
Are you able to take those 2 zeros out right now?
sure.
Thank you.
Let's see here, water. Let's take that out.
Planning on having the
Now-
tree farm again this year? I'm sorry, I
Oops,
didn't think
that's
you were gonna
okay.
be ready.
that is, we have our Christmas committee again,
Nah,
something
it's
to
gonna
be
one more.
discussed.
Yep.
Because the tree farm last year was down about 5 or 6 trees from the year before. The same people were not participating again. So it's trending down. But it's still something to talk about. We might still want to go forward with it if we have some new ideas.
Okay. We
I
can
have a
certainly add,
comment.
if you want to add, if you want to take that back up to 18, we can. I can
Yes,
do
I
that
would
right
like
now.
that.
Thank you.
And then, also want to mention that, we did carry over 30,000 in the recreation this year. We have the RFP for the resurfacing of the courts ready to go. I just don't anticipate being able to get it out, get the bids in and spend any of that money this year. So we're going to put the RFP out, here in the next week or so, for next year. But it'll be one of the early projects for next year. So, we're going to carry that money forward, so.
I want to, jump on Gloria's ship right now and say that not just Christmas, but Halloween last year was phenomenal. And we ran out of some candy. I would like to see the budget increase just a little bit.
It has gone way up, double.
Okay, double.
Because we do for all departments, not just us, and the council and whoever else would like some that works here. We have increased to almost $1,500 in candy.
Okay.
And we
then-
also are renting a ginormous inflatable corn maze to go right in the middle, so the children can go in there.
And then Easter, we had that Easter egg hunt that lasted probably about five minutes because we had more kids than we probably ever had in the park, and they went crazy. I would also like to see a little increase there too, so that it can be spaced out.
Yes, sir.
Anything else you want to hear from us?
That's it.
By a little, I mean, somebody needs to add it. How
I
much are we
mean-
talking? I've got that
5,000
numbers.
in special supplies, in special program supplies.
Can you go to that line
5,000.
item so that we can see it?
Special, what'd you say, special?
Special program supplies,
That's
line item
back.
1005,
Back, yeah.
I
You
believe.
said this much, right?
Yeah, you went way down on that one.
Yes, sir. If we could add 5 in.
You want to add it, you want to make it 9 total?
Yes, sir. That way we can put in some extra eggs. And we're going to do separate times for people to hunt this time, instead of all at once when it was like a bunch of buzzards. It was a lot.
If you're going from 32.8 to 9, what,
A lot of it, if you look in tech and in special program services, let's see, services, tech, and equipment rental, I've all gone up in those. Because there was a lot of things that were listed under supplies that didn't need to
you
be.
just shifted
Yes, sir.
shell game?
Yes, sir.
All right.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah, I agree with Gloria and Dia to that increase for not only Christmas, but also to highlight the downtown area with more beautification for the holidays. That's a lot of money that you just, the shell game, like the mayor said, because of the typo, that I feel like you guys can do a great job in getting it more beautiful for the holidays. Because I enjoy just driving down the street because it gets dark so early and seeing it lit up.
Jessica and I believe we had a conversation about the banner. We have the Founders Day banner. And I think you had the suggestion of doing a banner that had all of our First Friday events
Yes,
and it hanging there as well.
I would love that.
Yes.
Now, that would go under the DDA
Yeah,
budget,
that's the DDA.
but that's definitely something to bring up at our next special event meeting.
Yeah, I think if we have the money, we should do it.
I did. Thank you very much.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Linda.
Linda.
Thanks. Next will be library. We'll get reset here.
Ms. Patty? You $170,000 for water?
Bring it on, bring it on. Other than requesting an extra staff position, part-time, is that better? Probably the largest change for me in my budget is in the book purchase. Print materials have been steadily going up, so I increased that line item for book purchase by $5,000. As of just before I came up here for the meeting, we currently had $18,000 in that line item, and we will probably spend it all the way down this year. When we order materials for the library, they are drop shipped, so they are ready to go into the collection. So this includes the plastic protective cases for audiobooks. It includes the plastic cases for movies and DVDs that we order, and those things are expensive. Now, we do get a little bit of a discount from our book vendors when we purchase these items, but when you figure in what they charge us for the barcodes, for cataloging, plus the shipping and handling, and then in this case, it's like $6.59 per item for a DVD case and a movie case. So it's not like the bargain bin at a retail store. It's kind of a wash. But I did decrease up right above the line item for book purchase is for magazines and newspapers, and I've significantly lowered that fee because I don't carry newspapers anymore. We don't have folks coming in asking for them. Everything is digitized now. And since we have an online library resource, I've cut magazine subscriptions that folks can download onto their devices. So I did go up on one item, but I dropped on the other one. Other than that, that's pretty much my budget pretty much stays the same. As you all know, we do get funding from federal and state grants that help us with technology. I have a people counter that is partially installed, and once that is installed, I'll be able to track how the busiest times of the library, which will help me in presenting whatever my needs may be in the future to you all. So, any questions from me?
I don't have any.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving right along, Chief Mundy.
I don't know if I'll be able to keep you guys entertained much longer than Patty did. As we discussed in our last meeting at the workshop, because of the equipment we were able to replace with the extra funding this current budget year, we don't really have a lot to ask for. There are a couple exceptions, and one is at the council's suggestion, we have asked for an additional flock camera. That's in the budget to be installed. Location to be determined as of just yet. And also I spoke to you guys about the possibility of our record management system being updated to a new platform, which would come at an increased cost, not per se to the budget, but per citation, because that's how we pay for that service. And that is going to be sooner than later. The last day we can use this one is October 1st. So that's going away, end of life. We had about a 3-hour meeting with Justice One today. And in addition to the new platform, which they claim they have worked all the bugs out of, there will also be some additional benefits on the court side for Miss April and her staff. And she would probably be in a better position to explain those to you at a later time, but she seemed pretty happy about it. So other than that, just kind of a repeat of what we've already talked about. We're asking for 2 Ford F-150s. As we explained, those are more durable. They work better for us here in the town, take them off-road. Fully built out, each one as of the last quote, which the quotes are only good for 30 days, and this was in March, early April. $71,599.38 each. So you multiply that by 2 and you got $143,198.76. You'll notice in my requested amount, that's about $20,000 more, and I'm going to tell you why. Because those prices are subject to change, and it's not just the truck itself. It's also the price of the camera that will be coming. It's the price of the radio. It's the price of the radar. Any one of those, the build out itself at 144th is subject to increase. So if I don't need it, obviously I'm not going to spend it. But I need to build it in there just to be prepared for a jump in any one or all of those products.
That's which line item here?
Yeah. On the truck. Yeah. Yes. Well, my printout's a little different than yours, Sandy. But I believe that it was for 165, if I'm not mistaken. So. Okay, and then the other thing we talked about was the officers in their certifications. I asked you guys if we could add being a basic instructor to our list of certifications that we pay a little extra for. I believe it's 23 cents an hour, I think it is. And then the second thing was to be able to pay our field training officers an extra $2 an hour while they are actually training. Not all the time, but just while they are training. So that's still in there. Also want to remind you guys that this year is our recertification with the Georgia Chiefs Association. Typically, we put $350 in there, but when they come out for their on-sites, we have to feed them and we have to house them. So you're gonna see a little more money in there to cover those expenses. Ladies and gentlemen, I believe that's about it. Yes,
Any questions for the chief?
I have a question.
go ahead.
You said that, you need an increase that's based off of the number of citations per citation. About, what's the average number of citations that you have?
So I can tell you, and I can't give you the number of citations, we average around 100 a month. But I can tell you that we have been paying, according to Justice One, on average, $1,605 a month from those citations. They anticipate with the new platform and the increased percentage, that number will go up to about 1,800 to 1,840. But for that, we're gonna get a lot, to include what Miss April's gonna be getting on the court side.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Kind of learning curve is there with the new software?
So they're asking for, well, typically, it's like a 4-hour training. They're asking for a full day and a half of training with each rotation, so. And we sat down in my office again for about 3 hours. It was me and Miss April and Miss Kayla. And we went over it on the mobile side, we went over it on the desktop side. And, the mobile side is pretty. Right, that's right. So there's some things that they had to work out. And of course, I called the local police departments that I know that use it. And for the most part, they said, yeah, it's starting to work pretty good now. So, but at the end of the day, unless we want a contract with another vendor, and you're not going to get one that offers this still, it's always a cash price, not a per citation price. This is what we got to do. Got to do it by October 1st. So I wanted to run that by you because I told you at the workshop that it was possibly coming, and now it's come. So.
I have a question for you, Chief.
Yes, ma'am.
The additional $2 per hour for the training officer, is that going to keep our officers in line with other trainers? Because since our last workshop, I had a conversation with my daughter-in-law who is a trainer for the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, and she said that it is extremely labor-intensive for that officer. So I just want to make sure that they're compensated well.
It's not only labor-intensive, but it's also very liable. I mean, you're responsible for whatever that person does. So what we did, and Brandon and I worked on this together, we kind of just polled what the other agencies were doing. And they range, some agencies actually offer a flat percentage per year. Like you're just like we do with our certifications, they get $500 more roughly a year. They'll say, okay, if you're an FTO, you get 2%. The thing about that is when you got 10 FTOs and only 2 of them are actually doing the work, that's not really fair. So we called Peachtree City because they're pretty aggressive in their way they operate. They're state certified like we are, and they're also nationally accredited, which we are not. And we asked them what they did, and they said they pay them $2 more an hour whenever they're actually training them. So they're getting compensated while they're training, but not when they're not.
Of course, as soon as we start paying 2, they're going to bump theirs to 4.
Well, that would be history. Yes, sir. Good news is we do this every year. I'll be back next year.
The $2 just doesn't seem, I mean, it's $16 more they're getting, right? For an 8-hour day.
12-hour day, so.
All right, so it's $24.
No, I understand. You'll never see me stand up here and tell you no when you're trying to help out my people.
Y'all are free to make motions to increase that if you want to.
Yeah.
Right. I'm just telling council that if they want to see that higher, they're free.
Well, I do make a motion to increase that more than the $2 as to what it is. Does anybody have any thoughts?
I like a flat rate, even though I know what you were saying. Like, instead of doing like a $2 an hour, what about?
Can I interrupt you real quick?
Sure,
I'm sorry.
go ahead.
We got a motion.
Oh,
So I have to wait.
I thought we were discussing.
I have to wait to hear that.
I second the motion.
All right, we have a motion and a second. So now you can discuss it, and then we'll vote after the discussion.
Yes. So what about like a one time, and upon the completion of training, you get a cash stipend of like $250 for doing the training versus giving somebody $2 an hour for the
Am
training.
I allowed to respond?
Yeah.
So, well, first I
question.
want to say to that, council is not here. And I don't know if council would weigh in on that. Do you?
See why they would.
Okay.
I mean, it's-
Go ahead.
Yes, so that's fine. If you, so you look at this, somebody that's got free hands, do some math for me. You're looking at 3 days 1 week, 2 days the next. Typical cycle runs, Brandon, help me with this, 8 to 12, right? 8 to 12 weeks?
Yep.
Yes, and it does. It switches between FTOs because you want more than one set of eyes on any candidate as they're coming up through training. So what does that work out to?
That's 100, if it's 3 weeks and it's 12 hours a day, that's what, 180 hours?
That's based on 14 days in a month. So 14 days in a 30-day period. They work 3 days 1 week, 4 days the next.
Okay, so that's gonna be 8, 6, so that's gonna be 14, you're right. So 14 and times 12. So
Doing this too?
it's 100, about 180
You're
hours.
the math person.
We're still at 180 hours, based on that.
During an 8 to
14 days of 12 hours a day.
times how many weeks? Because you got to go out for 8 to 12 weeks. The FTO session lasts 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the officer's
So you wanna work 4
experience.
weeks?
Yes.
So that's 720 hours.
So you got to take into account that, well, yeah, so the flat rate, you know, is, what'd you say, like 250 would be much, because at those hours,
At
at
those
$2 an
hours.
hour, that
I
officer's
thought it
making
was only one day.
$1,400.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I thought it was 1 day. All right,
Yeah.
so let's,
So-
now that we
if
know.
you're asking me my recommendation,
Yes.
because as they pointed out, they're going to be jumping between FTOs. It's not going to be the same FTO. If you're going to change anything, change the dollar amount itself per hour. Then you're rewarding the guy that's actually doing the training. And then when it switches personnel and he goes to another trainer, then that individual's getting, you understand what I'm saying? I
Yes.
think that's probably the more equitable way
Okay.
of doing it.
Based on this conversation, I'm going to ask Councilman Campbell, are you willing to amend your motion to reflect a dollar amount?
I do. I'd like to make a motion that we go to $3 per hour.
Are you willing to
second.
still, okay. We now have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Now, how does that impact
Your budget.
the budget?
I will have to let y'all know, because
Okay.
you have to go through a process in the software to
All right.
set that up.
Okay.
I'll let y'all know.
This is not approval time, so it really doesn't matter.
Right.
Okay. Any more questions, Joe?
Got plenty of water money.
We got water money.
Yeah, water money. Water money. Raises for everybody.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
All right.
Chief.
Thanks, Chief. All right.
Philip, I think you're next.
Okay, so the biggest thing to note with my budget this year is the pretty significant increase in building inspector and code services. That particular line item has increased by 42.86%. The reason for this is building permits, they have an outlay and expenditure that we pay to Safe Built for all of those services, but then they also have a revenue side, because we also get money in from revenue. So you'll see on the revenue side of the budget, a commensurate amount associated with the increase in building and inspector services. The one area that we don't necessarily get, that we're not able to track revenue for quite yet is the code enforcement that we're currently doing. There is revenue associated with that with court fines, but we haven't had a code enforcement case actually be paid, go to court and then subsequently have to be paid in quite some time. So don't really have a number for you on that. But for all other building permits, that's what happens. The reason that we have such a large increase, we have a lot of commercial buildings being constructed that are in the current stages of development. Those, especially East Group, those buildings are going to be constructed in the new fiscal year, so they'll be constructed after July 1. Those buildings themselves will be, just those two buildings out of, their first out of three phases will be approximately 30% of the revenue that we would typically get from building permits for an entire year from all other construction. Just gives you the scale of commercial. So that's why that number is the way it is. I just wanted to make sure I covered that first. Any questions about that before I kind of move on to anything else? Okay. So that's why that that item is the largest. Technical services did see a decrease. That's because we are no longer doing any matching grants, but we do have other technical services that we'd like to pursue. We'd like to get a geographic information system, so our GIS system updated to have all of our data parsed through, and so we can use that more effectively, as well as a couple of other technical services regarding codes. We did have a large decrease in equipment repair and maintenance. This is because that's actually associated with an increase in purchase of capital outlay for a plotter, for a new Harry plotter, sir. We're getting a new one for our large format printer. So we were currently leasing our previous plotter, and just doing some calculations, we paid a lot more for that plotter over the course of a 5-year lease than if we just purchased it outright with an extended warranty. That's what I'm pursuing now. Our lease on that plotter ends basically this month. We'll continue the gap for 2 months. They allow you, of course, to keep paying if you want to, for 2 months, and then we're going to axe that contract, and we're just going to purchase a new plotter. The new plotter, we tried this with the old one. It didn't really work very well. The new plotter, we should be able to print canvas banners. So that would be a nice upgrade for us to be able to do for recreation for the library. And so that'll be a good feature. Plus, it also prints on what we call waterproof paper. So it's something that you can have outdoors for a short period of time. But the canvas would be a nice item to be able to utilize. So that's kind of where you see some of the increase associated there. Going through any other large items, so you'll see that in capital outlay. We have budgeted $25,000 for that plotter. I do not anticipate it to be that much, but to get a good plotter that we can use for that. We actually paid more than that amount for the last plotter over a 5-year span. So we're hoping to save money by purchasing it outright.
Phil,
Yep.
can I ask a question on it? What supplies come with that? I mean, so yeah, you're budgeting 25,000, but then you got to buy the canvas, let's say for that, and the ink and all that. What comes with that?
So the paper is surprisingly cheap. A 300-foot roll of 36-inch wide paper is like $30. It's pretty cheap. It's actually pretty economical. The ink is expensive. We typically replace ink once or twice a year. It's about $700 to replace all the inks each time you do it, and then we anticipate over basically but we don't have to. I'd say we replace the ink. We've replaced those inks like 3 times over the past 5 years. It lasts a very long time, so it's not every year that we pay for ink. And then you also pay for a print driver. Is a print head. That's about $500 or $600 as well, but that's once every 3 or so years that you would have to replace the driver head. That's just typical maintenance and operation. But we will actually, in the purchase of this, that amount includes a 5-year extended warranty for all repair, and it usually includes at least a 2 to 3 year supply kind of warranty where they just, whenever you need supplies, you just call them up, and they'll do that for at least a year or 2. So that's what that price includes.
Thank you.
Buy it outright.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to Scott.
Good afternoon, council.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
All right, so Public Works, we'll jump into some of the large ticket items, but just so you know, there's a 48.57% decrease, which equates to approximately just slightly under $5.3 million decrease in the budget. So we're going to go over just some of the big increases, and then we'll go through the decreases. So really the most major increase is in our equipment budget. We've asked for two rather large pieces of equipment. One is a compact track loader, which is a skid steer on tracks, to help us get things like mulching heads and stuff like that, to get into areas where we won't be puncturing tires on the Bobcat, on the skid steer. The other is a mini tractor. We were able to get the John Deere running for a while. It's a 1998 John Deere, so it's done its time. But we're ready to advance that to the next step. So that's really the biggest increase in my budget, and everything else is, like I say, pretty minor money for Public Works. As far as decreases, road repair has decreased 17.6%, building maintenance 36.5%, sidewalks 26.6%, stormwater and pond maintenance 30.8%. Let's see here, site improvements under capital stuff. We'll go through the capital stuff.
Let me get down there first. Here we go.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm jumping kind of quickly. Give Brandon a chance to catch up. Is going to be site improvements, which is 54,1200. If you're there? Okay. So that is basically, we're putting those on hold. That's the pole barn parking lot. And the reason why is because when you think about the carrying through all of the building of the pole barn, then having to move the other stuff down, the demolition of the pole barn, even with that being bid out, hopefully soon, like in September timeframe, the project, by the time you get all the work done and everything, you're not going to be in a position to start building the parking lot. We'll be getting too close to next year FY, so it makes sense not to put it in this year's budget, but to wait and put it in the next year's budget. Cart paths were a decrease because of the streetscape cart paths, part of the project with streetscaping. Those are not going to probably even be out of design by the time we get to them this year. So we took some money out of that. Pendleton Dam, you know about that. What's the other big ones?
And to hit on that, and to get back to Mr. Campbell's point from earlier, we only put 100,000 in the general fund budget this year, and there's the 1.5 in the revenue side. And the reason for that is that was one of the conversations we had. Is okay, Scott, if we get the grant July 1 and we're ready to move forward July 1, how much money are we actually going to be able to spend on that project over the next fiscal year? Even though it's kind of teed up and ready to go, if you're realistic about it, you know, you're probably going to spend, he came up with probably about 100,000 of that getting the project started this year. And also we take into consideration, like, the grant is not, you know, you're not going to get a $1.5 million check. It's a reimbursable. So that is how we accounted for that. So I wanted to highlight that, getting back to your part of the conversation earlier.
Right. Thank you for clarifying that, Brandon. Vehicles, we're not purchasing any vehicles this year, so that budget dropped completely. Those are really the major items I have. But if you have any questions on any of the projects, I'll be glad to discuss them with you.
Sure you got all the equipment you need? I mean, I'm genuinely saying.
Yes, sir.
Is there not more equipment that you?
These were the things that we've been looking for. You know, we've been, like, keep talking about the skid steer over and over again, and we're coming to fruition and getting that ready. A lot of implements are part of that, so they're a little easier to purchase. And one of the things is a broom. So if we need to go down the street and get rocks out of the street, or we need to get concrete that's spilled off of a truck, we can take those broom trucks down there, and that helps us get it off quickly and easily, and less risk to the guys, and they don't have to be out there with equipment back and forth with traffic going around them. So things like that, you know, to help pick up the mulching head, like I said, will be a great addition for when we need to take trees down, want to grind them down some. If we get a chance to get over in Hanley Park and do a park path through there, walking path, we would take a piece of equipment like that through there on the track loader and be able to basically clear and mulch the path at one time. So we could build that and not have to pay somebody to come in and build it for us.
Some of that obsolete, I'll call it obsolete equipment, like the skid steer loader and the dump truck, the 2009 or whatever that was, the dump truck that you're replacing, which is great. After you surplus that, is it something we can take to Ritchie Brothers or an auction and auction that off and just to get a few dollars for it, or what was your intentions?
Surplus is the way we typically would do that.
Yeah, we would typically put it on the regular auction site.
Okay.
After we bring it to you guys and surplus it, though, I mean, we can have that discussion if we think we can get more from it from Ritchie Brothers. You know, that's something to consider, but our policy is to typically surplus. If it's trash, it's trashed. If it's, you know, something we feel like someone would purchase, we put it on the auction site. So.
And you do have the new dump truck, because I saw that.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good. Now, when are you gonna get that all duded up with the chevrons and all of that?
They're working on it now.
They're putting, because that was part
No,
of.
I mean, like Mitch is working on getting all that stuff together. They got a tarp that we have to get for it, and things like that. So
Right.
He's working on that, and I don't know what his time frame is on it.
Was that not part of the original agreement when we agreed to buy that? Was that included in the price?
I don't know if it had any markings on it. There was some lighting, I think, that was associated with it.
But the tarp and everything, I thought was
The
included.
tarp was not part of the original price, no.
It was not, okay.
No, sir.
But they are working on it to get that?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Yeah, we need the tarp pretty bad, because
It's a nice-looking truck.
it is, and we appreciate it very, very much. Thank you.
But I agree with the mayor. Is that everything that you think you need at this point in time? When you
Yes, sir.
guys-
We've sat down, Mitch and I talked about it a couple times. Philip's been involved in some of those conversations, and, you know, to be honest with you, if we tried to buy more than that, it takes time. And like we're saying, being realistic, I don't know if we would be able to purchase everything in a timely fashion, and him not be in the office all the time. And we need him working in the field too. So, you know, with the guys. So anyway, I think we're good for equipment for this year.
We also want to make sure we have the real estate to store it until we move over to the Hanley Park. Once we move over there, we'll have some more space to, you know, store some of that equipment and things like that too.
All right. Is that it for Scott?
He was gonna talk about SPLOST.
There's one other thing too, Brandon, if you don't mind me just bringing up. At this time of year, I try to keep reminding everybody about our roads and the way that the subdivisions grew in Tyrone has pushed a lot of roads that are gonna come together at one time. And so I just wanted to give you just some kind of rough numbers to give you a feel for this, because I think it's gonna be important in the future that we know that there's gonna be this push on infrastructure coming. So during 2002 to 2008 is when the majority of them came in, and there were 20 residential subdivisions and 3 business parks that were either constructed or paved. So like in the Shamrock Industrial Park was there, but they paved a lot of their roads in that time frame. So those roads are becoming due, as well as when Southampton was built in 2002, all those roads are going to be coming in. Those 20 residential subdivisions and 3 business parks consist of 24.9 miles, almost 25 miles of road. That's 37% of our total roads. So, food for thought here. We are going to be hitting times where we're going to start having more and more roads that are going to need repair. And as you recall, I've discussed this, and for the new council members, they may not have heard this, but the way roads decline, the longer you wait, the quicker they decline, because they don't go linear, they're exponential. So they start falling off very quickly. So our goal is to try to keep this. We get our new PCI. That's tomorrow night is something you'll be voting on. If that passes and we get our new PCI, we're going to try to lay out a 6-year plan for going through these roads and seeing how we can tackle this in a financially sustainable way. We're also doing some pavement crack sealing we've been doing and things like that, trying to extend the life of our roads, our newer roads. So we're working towards trying to break that chunk up a little bit and stretch it out. So I just wanted to let you know that that will be coming in the future, probably 2026, it'll start hitting that budget year.
Scott, are we still going by that list that we had several years ago of the worst roads being resurfaced first?
Yes, ma'am, we did one in 2021. That was our latest. We had one that was done in 2016, we did it on 2021. Now we're doing our new one, which, like I say, we should hopefully have that data back this FY. So then we'll reestablish those.
So they'll get reevaluated?
Yes, ma'am, they're being reevaluated. That's what tomorrow night's,
PSI is,
yeah, the
PCI.
council meeting, that's what I have on your agenda tomorrow. Okay, sorry.
Let me get to the SPOS fund here for you.
2017 SPLOST. Want to tackle that one first?
And I tell everybody that Laurelwood is not getting resurfaced because of me.
Laurelwood's not getting resurfaced because of you?
Because I live there.
Oh, no.
Everybody.
It's always based off the PCI.
I've
I
had
can
people
show you
ask
the
me-
PCIs that it's,
I've had people ask me, are you getting that road paved because you live there?
No.
I said, no.
no, ma'am, they need to come show, I'll come show them.
I said, you need to call Scott.
Yes, ma'am, direct them to me.
And that's another great selling point for the PCI index, is it gives you guys an objective standard by which to guide, to judge, what we're gonna pave, and it protects you from that type of stuff, so.
I think these people were just being cute, you know what I mean? Yeah.
And it's done by
I
a
don't
third
think
party.
They meant anything bad by it, they were just harassing me a little.
That's good.
Yes, ma'am, and it's done by a third party, so it's not like we have really any influence into it. That's why we do it this way, because it's fair. All right, so 2017 SPLOST. Basically, the big thing in this is the roundabout, and we're waiting on land acquisition. Attorneys are working on that with everybody trying to get the appraisers and the title people, trying to get all that straight and done. And once that's done, anything that comes out of that needs to be tweaked in the plan. Sometimes there's things that, make something shift, or somebody requests something. Those little tweaks get put in, and that normally takes a couple weeks to a month, depending upon how many tweaks there are. And then we'll be out for bids with it. So I'm anticipating this going out to bids in FY '25. And that's why we've stuck all the money in there for basically this year. So that when it becomes a reality, we can move. That's really the biggest one on there. The other things, Hanley Park, Brandon was talking about the bathroom project. In the 2023, we're talking about some future work there also, but that's pretty much where that is. And the streetscaping is the money going towards the gun-in project that's going on right now. So that may actually be done this FY. It's moving along, starting to move. So, any questions on 2017 SPLOST?
Did I hear you correctly, for the roundabout, it's not going out for bid until FY 2025?
That would be
That would be this one coming up.
That's the coming fiscal
July
year.
1, 2024 is FY '25.
Oh, okay, all right. It seems so long ago, and- Thank you.
Yeah, I always stumble over FYs because where I came from before here, they talked FY, they were talking about the year that it starts, and here they talk the year that it ends. So it was very confusing my first couple of years here. I had to ask people, talking about 2018 to 19 or 19 to 20? Oh, goodness. So 2023 SPLOST. All right, so our major increase in this one, we have a large increase in the intersection improvements. That's getting into the discussion about what we're going to do at Palmetto, Sonoya, and Tyrone. Town of Tyrone Road. We've had some looks at that. I don't know how much detail you want me to get into that, but we're talking about potentially a traffic signal there, just to give you a heads up on that. Road paving and repair, we added the money to supplement with SPLOST with the LMIG that comes in our general funds, so we're leveraging all that. Dam repair and maintenance, that is up because we're trying to move that from design into actually doing some work. So you'll be seeing coming up early in the FY the rest of the design package, the front end of the design for the two dams, one at Hanley and one at Adams, was to determine what needed to be done to the dam. And now this one that I'm going to be bringing to you, hopefully, like I say, as soon as the FY starts, is going to be based on doing the plans and getting it bid and getting it out and getting it constructed. Cart paths, there's been an increase in that. We have several of the cart paths. Laurelwood is in land acquisition. We'll be finishing up the designs on Tullamore. That's going to sit until the Dogwood Trail resurfacing project is done by the county. They were talking about that project maybe starting in June. It's been pushed up to April of 2025. So hopefully we will be able to finish that out and then start our Tullamore stuff, and right in July of 2025 we'll be able to move towards that, because that one will actually can bid while they're doing the construction stuff. We can have all that bid and lined up to go. But we won't be able to actually approve the documents until after the 2026 budget is approved. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, good. The let's see, anything else that's really big and major in here. Shamrock Park upgrades, y'all know about the pavilion and all that Philip was telling you about, so I don't need to go into that. And I think that's everything for 2023, unless y'all have questions for me.
It's got the flashing stop signs like we have down at the industrial park. Give me just a ballpark figure what they cost for each one.
About $8,000.
I mean,
Not bad.
I'm sorry?
That's not bad.
No, I mean, would there be a consideration to put them down on Castlewood and Sonoya Road?
We could.
I know we've talked about that before at some point, but.
Yeah, let me go back and look at the crash data on those things. I know there's been some accidents there, but I'm not sure they've
By
been.
the school and the hardware store.
Yeah, we need something. I've about got killed 3 times.
Right.
I mean, these people coming this way don't realize you're gonna turn, and you're both out in the middle of the road, They don't give you your turn.
It's just another reminder for people to slow down and
Castlewood?
stop at those.
The left-hand turn lane.
Yeah.
Right,
It's
so.
terrible.
Yeah, that's one of the ones that I originally was talking about possibly doing a traffic study on to warrant not having the left turn lane there. Because that seems to be the issue in my mind. The people who are on Castlewood turning left because they're sitting back
Yeah,
to give room for the turn.
right.
So to me, that's the one that we should be doing a quick study to see if it needs to be deleted.
And
Because I think that may warrant a deletion of that turn lane.
And Scott, down at Crabapple, I've also noticed that coming out of the park, that lane stops way up, not down near the stop sign. And people those cars will be kind of coming, and they'll just zoom on by. I've noticed that being in line.
I mean, the stop bar is further back and they're stopping at that stop
Yeah,
bar?
and they're stopping at the stop bar, but these 3 vehicles here, they're not waiting for those people to come out because it takes so long. It's too far back,
Okay,
in my opinion,
all right, we'll take a look at that.
because I travel it a lot.
And it has made a tremendous difference from what it was before.
Oh, absolutely.
Tremendous.
I
Absolutely.
travel it every day, every morning, and it really is, it's a lot more pleasant to go down through there.
Absolutely. It's definitely safer, especially when those trucks are rolling out, for them and for other people. Yeah.
But with the increase of traffic from people not wanting to go from 85 down 74 into Tyrone, and they're getting off now at Palmetto, Tyrone Road, and then they're scooting down to Castlewood, those two rows are the cut-through for everybody, you know, especially in the morning and in the evening. So, I don't know, I just thought having those flashing lights or the stop signs, I've seen what they've done down at the industrial center. It may slow people down, it may make it a little safer. That's just my 2 cents.
I mean, if you guys are interested in that, I would ask that maybe we put $10,000 to $15,000 in the budget to do a traffic study and see what warrants come out. Because I think the left turn lane is the culprit that's the most dangerous. But that's something we're going to want a traffic engineering company to say.
If you don't have the left turn lane, where do you go?
It'd be just like a regular three-way
Three-way
stop.
stop.
Right. So people who wanted to turn left would just come right up behind the people who were turning right.
To me, if you're gonna spend $15,000 for a study, that could buy you 2 signs.
I don't have a problem with buying the signs and putting them up if you guys really want the blinking signs. I mean, that's a doable thing, but I don't think the sign is solving the real issue. What I'm trying to say is the issue is the left turn lane.
But we're not engineers, so we don't know that.
Right. So what I would say, if you want to do this, I recommend doing the study to see if the left turn lane is really a warranted thing or whether it's something we can remove. That will increase the safety of that intersection more than anything, in my opinion. Just in addition to that, if we feel line of sight is still an issue and we want to add the signage to it, we can do that. It's warranted for stop signs, obviously. So changing it to a blinking stop sign versus it being a regular stop sign is not a change in the warrant. That's just a change in the sign.
So just explain to me, what about that left turn again? I don't know how that would work.
Okay, so when when you're sitting here at the left turn
At Castlewood,
of Castlewood.
and you're gonna make a left
Sonoya's
onto
out here.
Sonoya Road.
Yeah, I'll stand up so you can see this. 'Cause
Please,
I know-
thank you.
I know this dais is high. So if you're sitting here making the left turn and Sonoya's going this direction,
Correct.
when this car pulls up to turn right, it's blocking the line of sight of the vehicle over
Understood.
here,
I got it.
right? So those people aren't seeing these two people trying to turn.
Correct.
Okay? So that, to me, is one of the big things that I've seen cause problems. I've actually seen, too, where people, when they pull up to the sign, there's been a vehicle or something parked over in the parking lot or something like that that's obscuring seeing this vehicle turning also. So even them going straight sometimes have that inkling of, I don't see the car.
I think they don't care if the car's there, they just pull out. 'cause
Well,
they're
that's
in a
possible,
hur-
too,
They're
but
in a hurry,
Yeah,
just want to go.
Thank you for that.
yeah, no
I
problem.
would like to make a
I
motion.
can't help stupid, I'm sorry.
I would like to make a motion to have a traffic study done at the intersection of Castlewood and Sonoy Road to see if it warrants removing the lane or increasing the signage.
I second that.
And how much needs to go in for that to be done?
I would suggest the 15. I'm hoping it's not going to be that much, but that's what I would suggest.
I'll amend my motion to allocate $15,000 for a study at the intersection of Sonoy Road and Castlewood.
I second that amended motion.
More discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, anything else on I think we were on 2023 SPLOST at that time. Anything else on 2023 SPLOST? All right, hearing none, I'll move into the sewer fund, if that works for y'all.
Yep.
All right, so on the sewer fund, we had a small, well, it's 62%, but it's only a $2,000 or $2,300 increase on small equipment, very minor thing. The big things are we're decreasing some of the infrastructure project, and equipment is gone down. Don't need the jetpack, is the main difference there. And we also lowered the contingencies from 150 to 100,000, which brought the sewer The sewer budget down 17.91%, or equivalent to about 1.7 million. Any questions on that one? Okay, I'm going to jump to the tree fund next. So the massive tree fund of $30,664 is a estimated increase of 15.65% because we've had some additional revenue come in on it. This is something that as we start doing our streetscape projects, we'll be using that money to put those trees in there and other places. So really not much to report on that. All right. Was there any other, like assigned funds or anything like that that were in that other budget category that,
We didn't
and that's
cover.
in the budget?
Let's see. Cover hotel, motel, that's not a big thing. That is, federal confiscated assets, the chief didn't really cover that. It's not as big of a deal as it used to be. He is requesting only $1,200 in that budget this year. I don't know what the fund balance is.
We were pretty much spending it down.
Pretty much spending it, okay. So, yeah, so he's got $1,200 in there for uniforms, which would pretty much, I guess, deplete that. State confiscated has got $6,500 in there, and he is got supplies, so he's looking at small equipment there for $6,500. Supplies for Citizens Academy job fairs and town events. So that's really the bulk of the budget proposal from for FY25. We appreciate y'all's feedback. Y'all gave some really helpful feedback today. I do want, if there are no more questions on the budget requests, this would be an appropriate time to discuss the scenarios with the 3%, 4% potential increases for salaries, because once we leave here today, staff is going to have to get to work on finalizing everything to get it ready for the first meeting in June, which will be our public hearing on the budget, and then you'll vote to approve the budget the second meeting in June. So our timeline's pretty short, but thankfully with the software, I mean, it's a lot easier to get that stuff finalized. But I would like to get y'all's feedback on what your appetite is for.
Well, why don't we just do this? If somebody has in their head that they know what they want to do, just go ahead and make a motion, and then we'll discuss it.
If I can ask just one question before we start. Do you anticipate, remind me, what we expect over the next fiscal year as far as increases go, normal increases would go?
You all have typically done, over the past several years, you have, in a singular year, you've typically done 4%. There was a year, I believe it was 22, you did a 10% mid-year.
Right.
And then another 4, and then you did a 4% the year before, and then you did a 4% the year after.
Well, we had done that 10%, and correct me if I'm wrong, just because we were making some major adjustments with all the surrounding towns and everything.
The county had done a mid-year adjustment, and I believe either Peachtree City or Fayetteville had done a mid-year adjustment, and so we were trying to follow suit with that. So you guys made those adjustments. So the typical number, when it fits the budget, and over the last few years, it seems to have, was the 4% number, so.
Well, for me, I would make a motion that we entertain the 4% board pay increase for our employees.
Second.
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Was anybody thinking something different?
I have a question. So of course, I'm fine with the 4%, but that it was the the issue down here too, does that address the administrative, pay increase with the general fund plus the sewer as well at 4%? Is this encompassing
Yeah,
that?
so on the memo, the numbers on the memo reflect both scenarios.
Yep.
So if you guys go with a 4%, your total bottom line increase, including sewer and general fund impact, is $112,509.96.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
And
Thank you.
that includes pay and benefit increases that come with that.
Okay.
So it's not just,
It's not
Um,
just,
salary, it's salary plus benefits.
yes,
Right.
I'm with it.
And yeah, that's it.
Wanted to clarify that.
That's everybody.
That's everybody. And the numbers here, this is that scenario on the screen for you. So it's $12,033,572 is the total in your general fund, which is still a 31.5% decrease from last year's overall budget.
Any other discussion, questions, disagreement? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right. I think that's all. Is that correct, Brandon?
That is correct, sir.
Okay, I'm going to ask if there's any public comment. Y'all can criticize us.
They just gave you a raise. You probably don't want to do that.
We took it out of the water fund.
Well, in that case, you can also compliment us. All right. No public comment. Are there any staff comments?
Just quickly, sir, I just want to let y'all know that next week, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, Philip will be out at UGA for CPM graduation. So that is a one-year program he's been in. I'm sorry, Tuesday through Thursday, man. Tuesday through Thursday, he'll be out for his final classes and graduation. I am going up for the alumni conference at the same location. I'll be here half the day Tuesday. I'll be out all day Wednesday, and I'll attend his graduation on Thursday. And depending on time, I may be back Thursday. But just wanted y'all to know that. I am available. I will be working as I'm there. So if y'all need anything, let me know. But I did want to let y'all know about that. Congrats to Philip. That's a big accomplishment.
Yes,
Very good,
congrats.
Phil.
It's quite a class.
We're proud of
We're
you.
proud of you.
Outside of that, I just want to thank staff again for their hard work on the budget. This was quite a year to learn this and get everything done. So that's all I have.
No more staff comment?
The Southampton down near Brunswick. We got bids on that and it came back very favorable. That one soon.
Grate on this sidewalk finished. Is it replaced?
Outside here in the corner.
It's here.
Yeah, we just gotta put the new one out there.
Yeah. The reason we haven't done that yet is Scott's been working, and he and Curtis have been working on a way to stabilize it. Because as soon as we put it out there, another truck's gonna, with that cone there, trucks aren't going over the curb. I watched the FedEx truck yesterday, a tractor trailer. He came in just fine. He left just fine. That thing has not been run over. That cone has not been touched. But this will be the third or fourth time we've replaced that thing. And the problem is it just spans across that opening. There's nothing in the middle. So when a vehicle comes up on it, it just collapses. So we could put it out, but I would put the cone back on top of it until we get it reinforced. They're gonna have to find a way to reinforce it, weld
maybe?
something, huh?
Spikes?
Something. But unfortunately, the couple of times it's been destroyed, we've been able to find on camera who did it, and we've been reimbursed each time. But those grates are $900 a piece.
All right.
So,
No other staff comments? Any council comments?
I have one. I have a question. I was called and asked, the grass on the cart path off of Tyrone Road. Who cuts that grass? Because they say it's getting high.
Should be A. Abbey, correct?
Thank you. They did cut it this week? Okay, because it was last Thursday when I got the call.
There's a small section right along the edge of the fence.
Okay.
I want to thank Brandon, Sandy, and the staff for a great job you guys did on this. I know it's a lot of work, and we truly appreciate what you did, and I love this program. I don't know how you do that, but it really is very good. I also want to just make mention, too, that we now have the Elks Club, or the Elks Group, is now holding their meetings here in Tyrone over at the Rec Center. The mayor and I and Linda were there at their first meeting to welcome them. And it's great to have another great civic organization here in town. And we'd like to thank them for being here and welcome them.
Other council comments? All right. There is no need for executive session, so is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.